Welcome. Ever just stop and wonder, where do new words even come from? Well, in this short guide, we're going to break down the secret formulas the English language uses to create new words every single day. Yeah, think about it. Words like smog or lab, we use them all the time, right? But they weren't always around. So how did they get here? Is it just random or is there some kind of system? Well, as you're about to see, there's a really cool logic behind it all.
You know, the easiest way to think about this is with Legos, seriously. Words are basically just Lego models built from smaller pieces. And today, we're going to open up that Master Builder's Toolkit and learn the instructions for ourselves.
All right, let's get started. We're going to look at the two main building methods. This is your basic, fundamental toolkit for building words.
So, on one hand, you've got word derivation. It's kind of like adding a small, specialized Lego piece, an affix, to a main block. You know, like adding less to point to get pointless. Then on the other hand, you have word composition. This one's super simple. It's just snapping two big bricks together, like door and bell, to make doorbell.
Okay, now for the really fun stuff. Let's get into the advanced toolkit, all the clever tricks and creative shortcuts that master word builders use all the time. This is where the language gets really inventive.
First up is something we all do without even thinking about it, shortening. It's pretty much what it sounds like. We just chop off part of a longer word, usually just to make things easier to say. You see this everywhere, right? Phone comes from telephone, lab from laboratory. It's just a natural way to make our communication a little faster and more direct. All right, next up is blending, and this is where things get really creative. We're talking about fusing parts of two different words together to make something totally new, a kind of hybrid.
I mean, look at how cool this is. Smog. It perfectly captures that hazy mix of smoke and fog in one neat word. And telecast? Same deal for television and broadcast. It's just a super clever linguistic shortcut.
And of course, we have acronyms. You see these literally everywhere. You're basically just building a new, punchy word from the first letters of a much longer phrase.
And what's cool is there are two main ways we use them. Some, like UNESCO, we pronounce as a whole word. But others, like the BBC, we spell out, letter by letter.
Okay, this next one is really interesting because we're not adding or removing any pieces. Instead, we just swap a sound right in the middle of a word, and boom, a whole new word appears. This is called sound-interchange.
And this table breaks it down perfectly. Sometimes it's a vowel that changes, like from the noun blood to the verb to bleed. Other times, it's a consonant, like how the noun advice becomes the verb to advise. It's a subtle shift, but it makes a huge difference in meaning.
All right, this next one is, well, it's literally what it sounds like. We're talking about words that are created to imitate the very sounds they describe.
And we use these all the time. You've got human sounds like mumble, animal sounds like a bee's buzz, or just the sounds of things happening around us, like splash or clink or bang.
Okay, this one is pretty wild. It's called back formation, and it's basically like reverse engineering a word. You take a word, you think it as a suffix, and then you just pull that suffix off to make a new, simpler word.
So here's the deal. People heard the noun butler, right? And they just kind of worked backward. They probably thought, well, a driver is someone who drives, so a butler must be someone who buttles. And just like that, a brand new verb was born.
Okay, you've seen all the techniques. So how about a quick pop quiz? Let's see if you can test your new builder skills. Ready? First question for you. Think about the word brunch. What word formation process created that one? What two meals does it sound like it's combining?
And the answer is brunching. Yep, it's a mashup of breakfast and lunch. Hey, if you got that right, congratulations. You're already thinking like a master word builder.
Okay, last thing. Let's zoom out a little and talk about how the experts, linguists, actually study all this stuff. Turns out there are two main ways to look at it. So the synchronic approach, that's like looking at a finished Lego model, just as it is right now. You're analyzing the final product. But the diachronic approach is more like digging up the original instruction manual to see how it was built step by step over the years. All right, let's do a super quick recap of the awesome word building tools we've just put in your toolkit. And there you have it. That's your word builder's toolkit. You've got the basics, like derivation and composition, and all those clever tricks like blending and back formation, and the rest. This is how English stays fresh and keeps growing all the time.
So I want to leave you with a question. Language isn't some old dusty thing. It's something we are all building every single day. Now that you have the tools, what new word would you invent?
Hey, if this explainer helped you out with your review, do me a favor and hit that like button, share it with your friends, and definitely subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for learning with us.